Hello everyone, I'm back and today we're building the Day of the Dead cemetery from the film Coco. It's very heavily inspired. It's not perfect obviously because I feel like it would be much bigger, or it gives me the impression it's much bigger obviously in the film, but I just kind of worked with what we've got. It's a little bit smaller, but it's just a kind of, I just thought it'd be a nice build to do. I actually was thinking about, I knew I wanted to build this before the new pack that is coming out on Halloween, I believe, was announced. And I was like, wow, this is like perfect build for this new pack. Obviously, with the new pack, we'll probably get some more items, which would be super useful for this build. And obviously, just in terms of like the lot type, like this is just a generic lot type. And things like that, like we'll be able to have the actual graveyards but I thought I wanted to do this before obviously the Day of the Dead, which is at the beginning of November, and the new pack's coming out on the 31st of October. Like I wouldn't have the time to do it then basically. So I thought, let's do it now, and it's a nice addition. It's a nice, thing to do before the pack comes out, and just needs a few tweaks updating for it to be like, I guess, more functional, I'm guessing, once obviously the pack does come out. But for now, it's like a really lovely lot. I really, really, really enjoyed making this, I guess because it's just so different, and I don't know, it's just really lovely. So I'm obviously building in the new world from I say new world, we're going to get another new world, but the world from the Love Struck pack, which I'm still really obsessed with, I'm not going to lie. And I actually took ages deciding where to put this lot, because obviously in the film, obviously you've seen the film, but in the film it's just kind of within the town, and I wanted it to still feel like that. I wanted it to just feel like this town cemetery, which, where families come to celebrate life. So I didn't want it to be, I basically looked at every single lot in this pack, in this world, and because we have obviously the big park area, which has, it's kind of like, so there's a big, I call it a big park area, but basically a big green area of the world which has a park within it, like a functional park within it. And I did think about putting it there, but then it just felt too kind of, I don't know, like it just didn't feel right. I wanted it to be part of the town, and I think this little part of the world is just so lovely. It's my favourite part, because it just, I don't know, it just has such a nice feel. Like it just feels like everything is like really, like, I don't know, like all the neighbours and like just good vibes. People can just hang out around here and mill around. There's like the little market stalls around, and I don't know, it's just really lovely. So I ended up building it here on this lot, which is kind of on the, I'm not gonna lie, right now I can't remember what it's called, but it's in the description if you do want to know which lot specifically it is. But it is kind of coming away from the main sort of like town centre, I'm gonna call it, which is where the kind of like a lounge bar is. So it's kind of away from that. It's where there's like the big residential home originally on it. And I like this lot because, I don't know, it just felt right. But the one thing I did, which is kind of a little bit strange, and I don't know, I even when I was building it, I like kept changing my mind about which way this lot was going to face. Basically, I've put the entrance to the cemetery like on the side of the lot. So as in, I don't know, so you can see like behind me, like when I'm building, like facing on now, behind me is like debug buildings, like that looks like, apartment buildings, residential buildings. And I've kind of made what looks like a path go up down the side, almost creating like an alleyway, if you know what I mean, for then the entrance of the cemetery to be coming off that. And that's just because, again, I don't know, I didn't want it to be like facing onto a main road. I don't know if that's just, obviously, like I said, in the film, it is kind of on a main road, but the roads aren't like this. Obviously, this is like a bigger road with like, it's got like the pavements on either side. Like it's just not kind of the same. And I wanted to it to feel not main roady. I mean, like, is that even a thing? So I put the entrance on the side, which might be like a little bit strange, and obviously you can turn it to whichever way you want if you want to turn it. But yeah, I quite liked it. And also because the kind of behind where this big, like, obviously the back of it, which is kind of like where the bigger tomb building is, it kind of becomes more suburban. And yeah, I didn't want it to be like coming off of there. I wanted it to come from where like the little, like I said, like what I feel like is the town centre bit. So that's why the entrance over here, even though it might seem a little bit strange. But anyway, so yeah. So basically this build is, or this video I should say, is just me doing a lot of the same thing. I'm not going to lie. I wanted each of the kind of graves to be different, so I've kind of used all different, obviously some of them are similar, but I've tried to use different kind of like combination of things, like using platforms, using some items which obviously are just other items that I'm just kind of like give the look of being sort of like a grave area. So I've just kind of, because I didn't want it to look same, because I felt like obviously, you know, they're all going to be kind of different, they'll be done at different times, and just over the years they'll have been changed and things. And yeah, like, so I didn't want it to look obviously just the same, each one, but there is the kind of, they're all in line, obviously, because I feel like there would be that kind of structure, but each individual one is different, if that makes sense. So yeah, I kind of spent a while kind of making sure they all look kind of different so that they're not samey. And then we move on to decorating them, which is kind of like the main event, you know? But yeah, it can get quite repetitive. So I'm not going to lie, I have cut out some bits just so that you don't see every single one, just because, like I said, it was quite a long video of very similar things. And yeah, I just felt like, you know, you probably don't want to see that, but I leave the majority in, so you definitely get a feel of what's going, like how I've done it and what's going on. And obviously there's lots of screenshots at the end, so you'll be able to see like lots of things, a bit more detail. But yeah, so I don't know if anyone, like, Coco is probably one of my favourite films. I watch it a lot, and I don't know, like, I just, like, I think, like, the first time I watched it was when I was at uni, and it was really lovely, like, watching with my flatmates. And I remember my flatmate just, like, sobbing, like, uncontrollably at the kind of, like, ending, and, like, the, like, when you kind of realise, like, how, like, I don't want to give any spoil. I mean, I feel like, you know, this film's been around for a long time, so spoilers are kind of, like, you know, not a thing, because surely it's been spoiled by now if you haven't seen the film and you want to see the film, etc., etc. So yeah, but just in case for whatever reason you don't want to know, obviously I won't say anything too much, but just like, if you don't want to know anything about it, then just listen away, or go away, like don't listen, you know what I mean, just turn away now, basically, is what I mean. So yeah, basically when I just remember my flatmate realising the, like, you know, the relation between all of them, and it's that sort of like plot twist of who's actually the relative of Coco, and like who her father was. And yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's just really lovely, and I think it's just a good story as well, especially for children. I think it is a good way to, you know, talk about topics that are difficult, and also show a different perspective on it as well, because obviously it's a day of celebrating, or a couple of days of celebrating, you know, loved ones, and it's just, you know, it's something that the family can do together, and it's like really special, and it's really lovely. And yeah, I just thought it'd be nice to recreate that kind of idea in The Sims. So yeah, so like I said, I kind of mapped out obviously the whole kind of main cemetery itself, where everything's going to be, and putting the paths down, and there's the big tomb at the end, which is obviously I felt like I had to include. This is kind of what makes it Coco, basically. Obviously, this could be, you could easily take this part out of the build if you just didn't want it to relate to that film at all. If you just wanted it to be for a family you have, for a family that you play with and you want them to go there. Obviously, you take this element out if you just think it's, not for you or whatever. But the tomb obviously is the character in the film Ernesto de la Cruz is Tomb. And you'll see that I put a big guitar on it. And yeah, inside is basically that's kind of to recreate that, where Miguel obviously goes in and gets the guitar down and things. So hopefully that's obviously we'll see it. It's right at the end. You don't get to see that till right at the end of the video, but you'll see that I've tried to, as best I can, recreate that. But like I said, that's kind of the main bit that makes it based on the film, if you see what I mean. So if you don't want it to be related to the film, then you just take that bit out, or you can just change it, just take the guitar bit down. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of fun. It's kind of even if you're not interested in the film, it's kind of just interesting to have that kind of tomb. It's obviously for a famous musician, and it kind of works even if it's not necessarily for that musician or from that film. And basically now I'm going to start putting the details down, and I kind of do this in a couple of different ways. Basically, I first started doing the main, obviously doing a bit of weeds just to make it a bit more realistic, add some foliage around. But obviously the main thing that I wanted to put down was the marigolds, which are the orange sort of flowers you see that kind of just coat all of the graves, and you'll see them on ofrendas. And yeah, and I just think that's really lovely, because that was the main thing that I needed to basically capture in this, because that is what they put down as a way to kind of guide the spirits home, which I think is really, really lovely. They're very bright, they're very colourful, and they smell, they have a very strong smell. So the idea is that helps bring spirits back, and yeah, just really lovely. So that was stage one, was basically put them over every single grave, and also add candles. They were the first two things that I knew really wanted loads of. I wanted loads and loads of candles, because this is a lot which in my mind is one you'd visit when it's dark, and the candles everywhere really, really make it. I think having the screenshots in the dark, and obviously the start video, the clip at the start of the lot with the Sims there and stuff in the dark, it just, it looks really, really, really cool. And yeah, so that was kind of the first stage. I knew that the one thing that I knew I wanted to do in this build was add pictures of people, sort of representing the people, the people who the families are coming to basically, talk about, reminisce about. And in my mind originally, I was going to have Sims, I was going to go into live mode and make Sims take pictures and use actual pictures that they've taken, so that it would all be different, real different. Each one would have an actual different Sim on it, if that makes sense. The pictures would all be different. So I don't do it for a while. I sort of start with just doing the marigolds, and then I remembered that we have a little picture that we got we had it in base game. I think we had an update a while ago where basically originally it was just a man's face, and it was kind of old looking. Do you know what I mean? Kind of black and white. So it looked like it was from years ago. And they did an update, I think. And basically now there's basically a variety of different Sims. And that's actually in the end what I used, because actually I felt like it really worked because they're black and white, that it makes it look like it's old pictures. And now that we have so many different ones, they can all actually be quite, they can all be different. It doesn't just look like there's the same picture on each grave, if you know what I mean. And I know that in the new pack that's coming out, there is actually an item which is a picture of a Sim, and then it has flowers with it, set with it, which is that would be perfect for this right now. But yeah, so that doesn't come till later. And also I add in lots of things later, different details. I kind of flit about a little bit, because obviously I think of things as I go, and I'll like see an item and then I want to like put it down. Like I said, I don't want them to look the same. I want them all to look different. Like it looks like different families have put out the things that are there. So, you know, they'll put out things like food. They might bring obviously lots of flowers and just lots of things that you'd basically be, you know, giving them or kind of like offering them, if you see what I mean. So yeah, it's kind of like a work in progress, and we'll just keep adding bits just to like bring it to life, basically, which is really nice. I also put a lot of chairs around, and originally I just put like the same chairs because they're kind of that like, I don't know, they look like ones that maybe they've like keep outside or whatever, because they're a bit like worn and like rusty, and that maybe they like bring out and stuff like when for this, or like, you know, like take it places wherever they're sitting outside or whatever. But I do end up like changing the colour of some of them because, like I said, I was like, this is a bit samey. Why would they all have the exact same chairs? Do you know what I mean? Especially if they like brought them from home or like, you know. So, but I really like that. I like the idea of them being able to come sit and spend a long time here, you know. And I've never actually, I've spent a long time in Mexico in my life, but I've never been there when they've been celebrating this. But I had been actually in, and obviously it's a little bit different, but I remember being in Portugal at the time of, you know, the beginning of November, and walking past a cemetery there actually, and it was just full of candles. Like, and I'd never really seen anything like that. It's not something that we do here in the UK, and it just looked stunning. And I just think it's such a lovely way of, it's just a different way of looking at life and celebrating life. And yeah, I don't know, like it really, it you know, especially when it's dark and you have all those candles lit, it's just, yeah, it's a really special thing to see. And yeah, I just thought it was the right time to build it, you know. And what more to just like, obviously just thought that I would kind of use the one from the film Coco as inspiration, because obviously it's, I don't know, it's just such a lovely film. So, you know, it just kind of worked. And that's what we're doing. And obviously, like, it is kind of also alongside this Halloween season. And I am going to do I am in the process of making a Halloween type build, which I'm hoping, I'm going to get out obviously before the end of October, because then it would be like not relevant anymore. But I might actually even release it on Halloween maybe, but that's very, very different build. But yeah, so that's quite exciting. It's quite, I like being able to do builds that just are different, you know, like it's just something different to do, especially when there's kind of like a specific season or event going on, you know, time of year that you can kind of use and like kind of do something different, you know. But I've been doing kind of like a few Halloweeny things this year actually, which I've never, like, Halloween is just never really done anything for it. I think since obviously having a child, like this year especially, we've done many more things than I've normally ever done. So like one of my friends actually has she does pottery, so she has her own kind of, I'm probably going to say all of her stuff wrong, if there's anyone out there that's also like into their pottery. She has like a little home studio basically, so she made us kind of like basically she showed us how we could make pumpkins out of clay, which are hollow, so we can put like little candles in. So I guess it's like, so then we've kind of carved the clay like you would a pumpkin, like, you know, as you do, and then pop it in your window, or whatever you want to do with it. But yeah, so we literally carved clay so that we can put candles in it. So we did that, and then we've basically waiting now to paint them, because she was going to put them in the kiln to glaze, I believe. And yeah, then we're going to like paint them. So that'd be really fun. And yeah, like doing some baking as well. I've made so many, I feel like it's just like once there's a theme going on, we can just like run with it. And yeah, we've made pumpkin cupcakes, we've made cupcakes with ghosts on. We've even done some like, I saw this really like creative thing where basically I drew like a cauldron on a piece of paper and then mixed some paint with bubble mixture, and then basically used the end of a toilet roll holder, like, you know, the cardboard bit that goes in toilet roll. So once the toilet roll is obviously finished, you get the cardboard tube and you like dab it in the paint and bubble mixture and then put it on the piece of paper, and it like creates a colourful bubble. Like the bubble remains for a while, obviously it pops and then it leaves like a circle of colour from the paint. It's like quite cool. I thought that was really creative. I just saw that on like Instagram or something. I was like, oh, we can recreate that, because it's just like things that you don't see. Is it like doing the pumpkins and like witches, ghosts, like all that kind of thing. Like it's just obviously not around for the rest of the year, but suddenly like it all appears in shops and stuff, and yeah, you just feel like just kind of go with it, you know. So you'll see that I've started to put some pics. I put a picture down and the sort of base game picture that I was talking about, and this is where I kind of decide, okay, this is what I'm going to use, and I kind of make sure each one near it, because I think there's like maybe 6 different variants of them. There's quite a lot, maybe more of the people. Obviously there's different colour frame as well for each person, so they could all be different. Obviously some of them do have the same person, but I've tried to make it so that they're not like near each other, so it's not really, really obvious that there's the same people, if you know what I mean. And near each other. Because that might be, yeah. But anyway, so I just feel like I'm just like sidetracking again. In terms of bringing it back to like Halloween, it's obviously a totally different event to this, is, yeah, like I just feel like I've just done a lot of different like bits and bobs for it, really. It's like, I don't know. And I think as well because my sister and my sister's fiance are like really into pumpkins, and they're actually going to get married next year on Halloween. So they're like really into Halloween. So I don't know. I just feel like this year, like especially compared to like others, I've just done a lot of like Halloweeny things, which is like quite nice. And yeah, so you'll see I started to add some bits to each of them. So like the little kind of like, they're like loaves of bread, I think. And I think kind of like, I don't know, they're really sweet, like under blankets, things like that. And like little pots, like so there's food in there. And just like a few little bits and bobs that maybe like people have like left for their loved ones. It's just, yeah, it just makes it like really, like, it just like how it's just brought it to life. I just think that's really poetic. Really, it really is. And I put marigolds everywhere. So like just, you know, just to cover everything. Obviously, I'm using the kind of dangly ones as well. Like they are actually marigolds. Obviously, it's not really for this, like that item's obviously not for this, especially even like the ones I'm using, like the circle ones on the ground, it's got the little red flowers, which is kind of like pretend we don't see them, but I just think it adds to, like, it really helps, like, I don't know, it's just nice, it just works. And then this in here is the tomb, like I said, as part of obviously in the film, and yeah, I just did the best I could. I kind of eventually, it took me a while, but I remembered that we had this picture of kind of like, I don't know, I think it works, like, and obviously in the film, the guitar, the one thing that really annoyed me is the guitar is sideways on the wall, so it's like, if you get what I mean, like, it's lying how you would hold a guitar when you're playing it, but I didn't want to use tool mods or anything like that, so I've just put it as it is, and then the picture next to it, which is like a little bit inaccurate because the picture was above it and the guitar was sideways, if that makes sense, but this is what I'm going to do. And then obviously there's the kind of like petals in there, which I've just used those leaves because it kind of gives the same effect. But anyway, I will leave you with some screenshots and see you in the next one. Bye.